Okay, guys, so today what we're looking at how to attract, motivate and retain a winning team. So today's session is going to be recorded, and with your permission, I'm going to be your teacher, coach during this call, and I'm going to talk you through some principles to help you attract, motivate, retain the best people to get a winning team. A little bit about me. So I've been an action coach for 9 years now. Before that, I spent 20 years in consumer finance. And what I saw back then was typically that when you got promoted, you were good at a role. And in that case, it was sales. But do you think many people who are good at sales are necessarily good at leading or creating a winning team? And they weren't. And do you think we got any training either? We didn't. So, but just like in business, most business owners are good at what they do. But no one ever gets trained on how to develop great teams. So I had to figure it out the hard way. Luckily, I had some good managers, or two good managers actually. And one of them gave me a copy of the 1 Minute Manager. Oh, crikey, we're talking about 30, getting up to 30 years ago now, I think. And that taught me a lot about how to get the most from people. So the things we're going to share today is a lot of action coach principles, and make notes. Ask questions if you want to. There's a lot of content today, so I'm pretty much going to be going through the content. And then if you've got questions, if they're really pressing, then ask throughout, put them in the chat box, and Salma can interrupt me. Otherwise, I'll take questions at the end. But one important thing is that this is learning, and just by doing the learning, you're in the top 2% of business people. But if you don't do something with the learning, then it's pointless. So take some. I'll tell you what would be a good start is for you to just think in your mind and jot down on a bit of paper what you want to take from this session. What is it that you want to get from this session? Because we get more of what we focus on. And if you've got a better idea of telling your brain what it is you want to get out of it, you've got a better chance of getting that from this session. And at the end, I want you to take some actions to put in your business, hopefully in line with what you've learned today. So let's move on then, shall we? Sarah, can you see my screen? Hopefully I'm sharing and it says excellent employees team. Yeah, cool, excellent. Okay. So when we build a great team and build great companies, we're building a business, but it's not just us that's building it. It's our people, and our people together. We're totally committed and together, if you like, and every employee will achieve both or more with your company's goals and their own goals, and much more than they've instructed if we do it together. And that's what team's all about, and that's what we're going to talk about today. That yes, we're going to encourage individuals, but we want people to grow as a team and get that motivation to want to work and develop for the team. So let's look first off then at some simple keys to getting that winning team. So the start is strong leadership. So if we're thinking about leadership, what words come to mind? Just type in the chat box, what words come to mind when you think of strong leadership? What does that mean to you, strong leadership? Strong leadership, whether it's you or you've had a great leader in the past, or you've seen somebody who inspired you to be a great leader. What is strong leadership? What words describe strong leadership? So if we're a leader, then we're out front. That's what that's where the word leader comes from, right? Leader suggests that we're in the lead. So we're giving direction. We're probably a great listener, because people want to know that they feel listened, to be able to follow us. There's trust, there's inspiration. We're perhaps a mentor. We give good direction. We set where we're going for the rest of the people to follow us. In a nutshell, leadership's about passion and focus, right? So in an organization, let's think about an organization. So in my job, working with different business owners, when I was first talking to a business owner, I'm asking them, what's the biggest challenge here? And sometimes people will say it's their team. And sometimes people will say, oh, I can't get right people. Well, my team are terrible. They're moan. And my job is to dig deeper into that and see what's behind it. And sometimes owners, leaders, managers, as they're blaming everybody else, it becomes apparent that they're the cause of the problem. And there's a phrase that goes that people don't leave companies, they leave managers. So what do we need to do as leaders or managers, whether it's our company or it's somebody else's company, as leaders, what do we need to do to inspire people to build that passion and focus? So if we think about the cycle of business as a leader, it says owner here, but replace owner for manager, leader, position, team leader, position of guiding other people. Our main focus is the team. Now, what often happens is the owner, the leader, the manager looks after the team, the customers, and the business. And then the concentration, if you like, is split between the business, the customers, and the team. What we want to do is we want to be a passionate vision that drives the team forward. And your role as a leader or as an owner, as a manager, is to train the team, mentor the team, provide the best systems for the team, provide the best equipment for the team, make sure that they're remunerated for their work done, the best technology, give them everything they can to do the best job that they can do. And the better you look after that could include praise, one-to-ones. The better you look after the team, the better they look after the customers. The better the customers are looked after, the better they look after the business. And the better the business is looked after, then the better you're looked after. So that's the simple cycle of business, if you like. Now, good managers tend to focus on getting bums on seats, tend to focus on, that's better, tend to focus on bums on seats, getting the right job spec for somebody. So let's say we've got an employee and the manager's employing them, a new employee. Excuse me, my computer's a little bit trigger happy. A manager might focus on getting bums on seats. So they're looking for the body and the mind. Can they do the role? Are they competent? That's the manager's job. But the leader's job is to inspire them, get the heart and the spirit going. If you get the first 6 cylinders of this 16-cylinder high-performance engine, which is your employees, your team, just by getting the body and mind going, yes, you'll do a good job. You'll do a reasonable job. They can do the job. They'll get it done adequately. Competent and productive people, that's what a manager does. A leader takes them the next level, gets all 16 cylinders of this high-performance team working together, and that's when the team love coming into work. So if we say here that the manager's looking after the body and mind, the leader's looking after the heart and spirit. When the leaders engage in the heart and spirit of the team, they can overcome setbacks. They look forward to coming into work on a Monday morning. Now, not everything goes to plan. And also, strong leaders' job is to put pressure on the team. And you think with anything, for there to be growth, there needs to be pressure, but not negative pressure. So negative pressure would be a leader saying, just do it or else. Positive pressure is putting a challenge to the team, challenging them to do their personal best, challenging them by putting challenging them by putting their KPIs on the wall, sharing publicly everybody's KPIs. So there's accountability, there's peer pressure, positive pressure. When you do this, people will naturally want to perform better together. Now, one caveat with that, when you're sharing numbers on the board, when I was in consumer finance going back 10 years ago, it used to be a thing to beat people up for bad numbers. That's completely the wrong thing we want to do. We want to use KPIs to inspire people, talk about the best practices, who's at the top of the list, who's doing best, and how can they step forward to share what they're doing with the people who are doing less well. Let's focus on, if you're talking about bad numbers, talk to those people in private. Share best practices, talk about those that are doing the best, and others will naturally want that praise themselves. We're naturally looking for praise and wanting to do better as just as human beings. So a breakthrough. So if we're talking about pressure for individuals, generally breakdown or a breakthrough follows a breakdown or a break apart or a break with something. I've had a few conversations with people recently, with business owners recently, where they've been concerned about holding their team to account because they've been worried about losing them. Now, this is completely the wrong way of looking at it. If you don't challenge people, then they'll probably not get job satisfaction, and then they'll leave anyway, especially if they're good people. So we want to be looking to give them positive challenge to make them want to succeed. So the second key to a winning team is the common goal. So what is the goal that brings everybody together? As we've said already, strong leadership is about setting that clear vision for the business. Where are we heading? What's an inspirational goal? And this isn't just about saying, well, we're going to hit 10 million. I just came off a call with a client who had that goal, but he's got other goals as well, to be the best at this, to have a work-life balance for everybody in the company. So what's the bigger goal? What's the purpose for everybody that everybody can get behind? I mean, a great example was on the US, the NASA space program in the 60s, when Kennedy said we're gonna go on the moon, land on the moon by the end of the decade. They had no idea how they were going to do it. But anyway, at Cape Canaveral, he was going through there one day, and he saw a janitor sweeping up, and he said to the guy, "What's your job here?" And he said, "I'm getting a man on the moon." Because that guy, that janitor, knew that if any of those dust particles got into the rocket, then they could potentially end the mission. So everybody, even the janitor, knew exactly what they were doing to contribute to that common goal. So how can you get everybody inspired to want to contribute to that common goal? The vision, if you like, the vision can almost be that 100-year goal, something that is almost out of reach. I mean, Microsoft, when they started, was to have the goal to have a computer on every desk. And at the time, it was ridiculous. When Nike started, they said they wanted to annihilate Adidas, which was ridiculous at the time because they were really small and Adidas were massive. Both of those two things have happened. Action Coach's vision is to have a business coach in every business, and these are visions that can inspire people to say, "Yeah, I want to be a part of that." So what's your vision and how well does it inspire others? Think about you and another employer, and someone comes to you for a role. If you've got a vision to be the best in East Anglia or UK or the world, imagine you giving that to the prospective employee versus your competition that says, "Yeah, well, you get a van and you get a car and you get a uniform." Now, who are they going to want to work for? Think about that. But your vision doesn't have to necessarily be global domination. Maybe it's just you want to be the best in your area. First is negative. So when you're in a desperate situation, think about it personally. Perhaps when you were younger and you wanted to think about it when you were younger, maybe, and you were at home and you wanted to have your own place, or you're fed up with this old banger and you wanted to get a new car. Away goals can be really positive, or they can be effective. Let's say if you wanted to raise £10,000 for a car versus you needed to get £10,000 to pay a VAT bill by tomorrow, or you're going to go to jail, which is more motivational? So they can be motivational, but up to a point. The thing with negative goals is they lose motivation the more steps you get towards it. So the closer you get towards that £10,000, the less you're going to be motivated to keep going. Whereas positive goals, towards things you want to achieve, they get more motivational every step you take towards them. So we want to get towards being the best. We've got this step, and we want to do the next step and the next step. And then the third type of goals are those that are bigger than you, bigger than your business, bigger than you individually. Could be to help other people or to leave a legacy behind you. This is the common goals that we're talking about here. And as I said, simply if you're struggling for inspiration around that, just say, we want to be the best at this, at what we do in this area. So where are we now? So on to key 3, rules of the game. What does that mean? What does rules of the game mean? So rules of the game, really, this is around your culture, the culture in the business. What are the core values of the business and what are the rules around that? So when an individual starts with a business, often we don't know just what we can and can't do. There's sort of boundaries and we feel like we're walking on eggshells because we're not quite sure exactly what we want to do. We need to have clear rules of the game. And those rules of the game are best to be based around your culture. And if you've got a culture of team support and team playing, then maybe your rules of the game are around that. So we have some clear rules of the game of what you can and can't do. Now, these rules of the game are similar to being on a football pitch or on a sports pitch. And you'd have tight rules and a tight culture and a tight context around what you can and can't do, but then loose people to be able to go beyond that. So we want to support people taking risks and doing and being innovative. So they can't be constrained by rules, but we do need to have certain guidelines. So let's use a football analogy. On a football pitch, they know that they've got to behave a certain way, but beyond that, they can run around as much as they want to do exactly what they want. The other thing to think about with this, when you start putting rules in place, some people are going to be inspired by this. Some people are going to say, great, exactly, at least we know what we're doing. And some people are going to want to raise their game to that level as well. Other people who have perhaps been getting away with behaving a certain way aren't going to like it. So some people will come with you, but expect some people to go. But guess what? It's better that those people go because they're probably holding you back anyway. So some of you who have been around Action Coach before and have come to the 90-day planning will know a bit about what an action plan is. An action plan is really simply just who is doing what and when. Simplicity at its best. When we're trying to dream big, that's when we might do a longer term plan, 5-year plan. And I'd encourage you to do that because people underestimate what they can do in the long term. So plan for the future and dream big. An action plan is a shorter plan, 90 days, could be a month, could be a week, but it's about who is doing what and when. And it's something that you review regularly. And it's not complex. It's just who is doing what on what day. So it could be a simple goal. So we want to achieve this amount of sales in 3 months' time. We're here now. We want to be there. And this is who's going to be doing what on each week. And just follow those actions as you go along. Sometimes those actions might not lead to the goal and you might need to adjust. That's why you review it weekly or daily so that you can make adjustments if need be. But who's doing what and when? So just make a note. So from what we've gone through so far, from the first 4 keys of a winning team, as you go through these, make a note of any areas where you could improve. Score yourself out of 10 is always a good thing to look at with these. So strong leadership, yes, I'm a 7. Common goal, perhaps we're a 5. Rules of the game, we're a 4. Whatever the number is, and put yourself a little action next to it. So strong leadership, what could I do to become a stronger leader? Could I listen more? Could I give more direction? Could I be clearer on the vision? What is it that you could do to improve things in your business? So supporting risk taking. We mentioned earlier rules of the game. So if they're clear what they can and can't do within a certain parameters, we want to then encourage them to innovate and support risk-taking. That's what that's all about. When they start trying something new, they're going to be in uncharted territory and they may well make mistakes. So it's our job as leaders to support them. When they make a mistake, then we're there to help them pick up the pieces. What did they learn from those mistakes? And how can they stop making that mistake next time? We want mistakes, because without mistakes, there is no growth. There isn't no, what's the phrase? There's no such thing as failure. The only failure is a failure to participate. If you're not taking part, if you're not taking risks, think about companies that don't take risks, very safe. Kodak, Nokia, not taking risks. And what happened to them? Missing opportunities. What we want to do is support risk taking, risk failure. Make the occasional mistake, but make sure you don't make mistakes more than once. Once is great, twice is just silly. So support that risk taking to help your team move on. Now, when in your leadership, how do you appear to support that? So if you think about this framework, if we're talking about our respect for others and our respect for ourselves, how is your leadership or management style? Are you focused on, if they can't get what they want, then I'm not going to get what I want, or if I can't get what I want, I'm not letting them not get what they want? Are we passive aggressive? I'm sure that nobody on this call is that sort of manipulative, aggressive style, but that's where you could be. If you had low self-respect and low respect for others, you could find yourself in that part there. So I'm sure we don't really know many people like that, because that's just lose-lose. But what we might see, and this is the person that we often don't want to be, and this can influence our behavior and our leadership style, because we can often see somebody who is hostile and aggressive, very draconian, as a win-lose sort of thing, sort of it's my way or the highway. And we think, well, I don't want to be like that. So then what happens is, because we don't want to be like that, and then this is lose-lose, then we end up being a lose-win. We sort of become passive. We sort of become, okay, well, don't worry, I'll do it for you. Does anybody relate to that? Where you think, well, save riling people's feathers, like the guys I mentioned earlier, who didn't want to hold people to account because they were scared of losing them. Where we want to be is we want to be win-win, and that's not easy. To be win-win, it takes being assertive. We've got to be strong enough to stand up for the other person, but also strong enough to stand up for us. And when we do that, it's win-win. Stephen Covey talks about this in his book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, where he's talking about how it's win-win or no deal. And no deal is okay, because we don't want anybody to lose. So we don't want them to lose. We don't want us to lose. We want win-win or no deal. So if it can't be win-win, then that's okay, but we just walk away. Where do you see yourself on that leadership style? If you see yourself in anything other than the win-win box, think, what do you need to do to improve? Take an action point. What's one thing you could do to be better? How could you be more assertive? How could you change the way that you talk? Do you need to pause when you're speaking to somebody, listen more to be more assertive? What is it you could do differently? Now, when we get to win-win, then we start getting better solutions. When we start supporting risk-taking, then we start making things better. And we're not just getting 1 + 1 = 2. Something called Kaizen, which is a Japanese word, which means ongoing improvement. Constant, never-ending improvement. So that's what we're looking for. We're looking to sort of grow, to plateau, to grow, to plateau. It might not always take that linear path, but we're looking to grow, learn from what we've done, and then grow again and learn what we've done and keep that momentum going. So the last Key to a winning team is involvement and inclusion. So if we're looking at your boardroom or your team meeting, how many do you want to give an opinion? You want all of the people to give an opinion. Now, for those of you who have done DISC behavioural profiling, you'll know that, and I know Sandra on the call, she's probably an expert in this, but you'll know that some people will always take part. Oh yes, me, I'm a high I want to talk. And some people are a bit more reserved and they'll hold back because they're either scared of making a mistake and saying something wrong, or they're scared of, say, upsetting somebody. So we have to take those individuals into consideration and make sure we give a platform for them and make them feel safe enough to be able to contribute, because they'll have something great to contribute just like everybody else. So how can we involve them and get everybody going? And when we get everybody going, then we get a synergy. And synergy means that one-on-one is more than the sum of its parts. The synergy means that one-on-one can equal 2, 3, 4 or more. Now, we've covered this simple model here about how to create that winning team. But the one thing that adds on to that, there's 6 keys, but there's one thing that brings it all together, and that's communication. So if you level up your communication skills and you level up your team skills, and they say true communication's the response you get. True communication's the response you get. What does that mean? It took me a long time to really get my head around that. It's an NLP phrase. And what it basically means is if you're not getting the response you want from your team, then you need to change the way you're communicating. And part of communication is communicating in the way that they want to be communicated with. Thinking about, are they visual, auditory, kinesthetic? Are they thinking about the DISC model as well? But communicating on their level. I think I heard a story once where a mother was talking to somebody's brother, and she kept saying, "Oh, why can't he see what I'm saying? Why can't he see what I'm saying? See what I'm saying?" So she was visual. She kept showing him, but he was auditory. He couldn't hear what she was trying to show him. So we need to communicate to people regularly as well, but on the way that they'd like to be communicated in. So what other ways do we have to communicate? Think about rituals. Now, rituals are things that we put in place so we don't do things by accident. They're things that we do to systemize, to make things happen, whether we're there to remember them or not. So rituals could be meetings, they could be all sorts of things, but how do you get people to continue doing them to build the team and on a regular basis? Build a winning team and teams that do these things regularly. Hope that makes sense. Get my teeth put in. So one of the things about building great teams is about recruitment. Building great teams is about recruiting the right people. So we're now going to look at recruitment, but we're not necessarily looking at selection. What we want to do is look at deselection. So what do I mean by deselection? Well, recruiting is about finding the best of the best to come and work for you. Hiring is about putting an ad out and hoping some people will come and work for you. So our job as a leader is to give them enough information so that they can decide that it's not for them. And then they deselect themselves for us. So the reason why we make it hard for them to work for us is that they have to really want to be part of the business. You think about how much it costs you to hire somebody, to train them. You don't want to be doing that more than you need to. So we want to make sure that they're the right person. And by getting them to deselect, then we make sure we're getting the right person. So part of the recruitment system is advertising, screening, deselection, and induction. Which one of these are you the best in? So on your bit of paper or in the chat box, whichever you prefer, just jot down which, excuse me, proofing, which of these are you best at and which of these are you weakest at. Score yourself out of 10 on each of those if you like. I'm going to go through each one in detail so we can have a look at some ideas to help you improve. So let's have a look at advertising to start with. So first of all, treat advertising for an employee as you're advertising for a client. We want to understand who our target market is. We want to understand as much as we can about the person that we're trying to hire. What type of person are they? What sort of disc profile are they? What are they interested in? What have they done before? What might their goals be for the future? As much as we can understand about them, where they live geographically, as much as we can understand about them, then we can find out, we can sort of put an avatar together, if you like, and think about, well, how can we get in front of them? What sort of medium might be useful for them? So let's say that we're after business owners. Business owners are our target market. How do we get in front of those? Well, I know that business owners are on LinkedIn, or HR directors maybe. They're on LinkedIn. So I could go directly to them on LinkedIn. Consequent, or alternatively, it could be that you're after something else. But what's your target market? Much like you do if you were looking for a client, what's your target that you're looking for an employee? And what's the medium? What's the right medium for your target market? So there could be any number of mediums. What we're talking about. So I've mentioned LinkedIn. Could be other socials. Could be Google. Could be a newsletter. Could be job boards. Could be the local school. Where could we find these people? Think about referrals. So if you've got a business that's been working for a while, then the chances are that you've got clients who love what you do. Could you communicate with your clients to say to them, look, we're growing, we're looking for more people to be able to offer a great service that we're already giving. Who do you know who would love to be part of this organization? And so, seek out people who are already committed to your business, like clients, like employees, like suppliers, people who know and love you already. Write the ad with you focus, okay? So things like, if you're the XYZ that we're looking for, then you'll be this. So instead of just writing an ad that says, it's an accounts executive and you'll be earning this and you'll be doing this and you'll be responsible for this, really dull and boring. Something that inspires people. So when they're reading it, they're reading the word you instead of we. Because when you say we and we're looking for this and we've been around for 30 years, you're just talking about you. Talk about them. So if you're the accounts executive that we're looking for, you're going to be experienced. You're going to love being recognized for a job well done. Do you see where I'm going with this? So write to them as they read it. And sell the position as well. So this, what are the benefits for this business and working here? You've already we've talked about the vision for the business, how you can inspire people and be the company that people want to work for. Sell the position. And remember, you don't just want anybody, you want somebody great. And the great people are already working. They're not just queuing up at the door like people maybe used to do in the past. The best people are working, so we want to get in front of them. How do you get in front of those people? Is it through Facebook? What else, Instagram? What other areas how can you get in front of the person who's not necessarily looking for a job? The other benefit of referrals is they might not be looking for a job, but somebody who loves them or is close to them or related to them might mention you to them. Look, I know you're happy where you are, but have you ever thought of working for XYZ employer? They seem to be awesome. Have them reply to a phone number. So it's a no-brainer if they've got to speak on the phone, they've got to speak to people. But you could do this for anybody who, in any position that you're looking to do, to show commitment. If they're committed, then they need to to respond to you and do something, instead of just like on a job site clicking yes, I'm applying for that application, yes, I'm applying for that application, yes, instead of doing that, they've got to pick up the phone and do something and answer some questions. So yeah, just going back to the call again, I think we'll come on to the call again in a moment, but essentially we want them to proactively do something. And this is the first level really of getting them to deselect for you. So screening process, what are we talking about here? So as part of the call answering, put an answer machine. Well, these days, you know, with VoIP calls services, and you can have a digital voice message, and you can get people just to or even respond to a WhatsApp messenger. Give them an opportunity to respond to a voicemail, and we want to give them an idea of exactly what they need to be doing. So you might leave a message for about 3 minutes, which tells a bit about you, a bit about the company, a bit about the position, and how to leave a message. So you want to ask them for their full contact details. Get people to ask 3 questions. So those 3 questions will be something along the lines of, why are you suited for this position? What's your 3 strongest attributes? And what's your biggest success in life? And then you can just screen these calls in your own time. The best ones will leave a message. The ones who aren't really interested, guess what? They've already deselected themselves because they don't want to make the phone call. So from these, make a note next to any of these that you think are good. By the way, this is recorded again, as we mentioned earlier. If you want the slides, we can let you have the slides so that you don't need to go crazy about making notes. So furthermore on deselection then. So once we've got people through who have applied through the recruitment process, invite the successful applicants to a 4-hour interview and have the team attend. So I did this with an electricians, and they got a bunch of electricians come along, and they had some of their electricians who were in the group interview. And so, well, I go through the process here, but first of all, we say run it in a boardroom or a hotel. The first hour is you as the owner or the leader talking about the company vision and the mission. The second hour is about the culture, and get each of the team members speaking on what it's like to actually work there, good and bad. So tell them, this is good, we like this, we like this. There's also the downside that we have to work long hours or weekends or whatever it is. Get them to, they need to know this stuff before they sign up. Then the third, it might even have a break in between these and give them the opportunity to perhaps leave after hour 2 if they've seen enough. Hour 3 is about the applicant speaking. And so they get 3 to 5 minutes each on why they want to work for the company, and position this before the break so that if they don't fancy it, then they can go. And then hour 4 is about DISC and VAC. Again, if you need more information about what DISC and VAC is, or you want to have one of those tests, just get in touch with me and we can get one of those tests out to you so you can see what they're like. So your aim is really just to scare people into if they're really not going to be right for the company, better we know that now than 3 months down the line. There's a company called Zappos in America, which was the first company to sell online shoes. And when they started doing that, it was a ridiculous idea. Who would buy shoes online? They got known as having a wonderful culture and an amazing way of looking after their people, and people wanted to come and work for them. And what they have is an offer that if you've been selected or if you're in the recruitment process, they will pay you $1,500 to leave if it's not right for you within the first X period, because they'd rather pay you $1,500 and see you go sooner rather than later, rather than you work for a few weeks, a few months, and it not be right. How powerful is that? So we're trying to get in quicker than that and get the right ones to stay, be excited about this, and the wrong ones to go. And then showing them the full story, the good, the bad, and otherwise, just like I've said already. So step 4, so we've got some people now. What do we do with them now? So bring back the best applicants for a one-to-one interview with you and several team members, and ask them some tough questions. Ask them, talk about questions around the culture. This is our culture. Give me an example of where you've shown that you can do this core value that we've got in our culture. Cover the details of the employment and choose the right person. And if no one's good enough, then run the process again. Don't hire the best of a bad bunch. Get them straight into the induction, and then as soon as they leave the interview, even if it will be sometime before they start. And I think the thing really we've got to remember with recruitment is we should be always recruiting, even if we haven't got a position right now. If the right person, the great person comes up, then let's manage their expectations. Either make a position for them or say, look, we really want you to come and work for us. We've got something coming up in a month or two. But it's better to be continually recruiting and then manage that person when they come up, rather than having to find somebody at the last minute and then take on the wrong person. So what we've covered today is how to attract, motivate, and retain a winning team. So look at your notes, and what are the top lessons from today's session? Just have a review of any notes that you've made. What are the top lessons that you've taken from today's session? I'll just see if we've got any questions already in there.